Hi everyone, welcome back in the most interesting person in the room, and today we're gonna find out how the most important historical characters of all times died through the ages. Let's start with Alexander the Great, the king of Macedon and one of the greatest military commanders ever existed. His figure still symbolizes the power of the warfare, and he created this empire that was stretching from Greece to Egypt, India, and this only by the age of 30. That is crazy if I think that I'm almost 30, I have planes in this futuristic world, but I still never reach India. He died in Babylon at the age of 32, quite young, unfortunately, possibly from a disease that we don't know many info about it, because it was a long time ago, so they still haven't yet a big knowledge of all the diseases. But yeah, it could be malaria, typhoid, or just some complication due to the excessive drinking, because he was very often drunk. Julius Caesar. Caesar was a very important Roman emperor and statesman that, he expanded the Rome territory beyond any imagination, and at the end, after reforming the political system, he declared himself dictator for life. And of course, he got assassinated in the Roman Senate by 23 stabs knives, and one of that was probably his ally Brutus, and in the day that was the 15th of March, that is called the Ides of March. Cleopatra was the last active ruler of the dynasty of the Egypt of the Ptolemaic, and she was known for her smartness in the political business. At the end she had to marry her brother, but at the end she made an alliance with the Caesar to take the throne. I mean, she was very, very smart, but at the end, after the defeat of Octavian Augustus, she famously committed this suicide that many people think that was poison, but to make it more fictional, it's said that it was caused by a snake, so she let a snake bite her. Very Egyptian, we can say. Jesus, a historical character, I think he existed. He was a religious leader. Okay, may you or not follow his dogma, and this teaching became at the end the foundation of the Christianity. They took the name from him. That is the world's largest religion now in this moment, and he was crucified under the Roman governor of Pontius Pilato, and this around the 30 and 33 after Christ. And this is funny, and his follower of course believe that they still believe that he rose from the dead, and you can decide if believe it or not. In this case, probably didn't die. I don't know how to take this news. Muhammad was another religious leader and the founder of Islam, and is the prophet of the God. Unified all the Arabian Peninsula under the Islam dogma and established new religion and political order. Now he died in Medina for a illness. That is crazy, because if they wanted to make more amazing the death of Christ with the Muhammad, it was not like that. Okay, just an illness. But it was still a very important character. Charlemagne was the king of the Franks and later the emperor of the Carolingian Empire. He expanded his realm to the Western Europe, and at the end was crowned the emperor of the Romans too, by the Pope himself. And he wanted to create this idea of the unified Europe, and that's why we still remember him. He died in Aachen in the 814 from another disease. All of them of course died of disease. It was a period of the history where there were not many hospitals and many good doctors, and after his death the empire got fragmented, and this was a huge problem. But at the end he created states like Germany and France. Genghis Khan, probably my father, he was the founder of the Mongol Empire that was the largest empire in history ever created. United the Mongol tribes and conquered basically all the Asia and the part of Europe. He died during a campaign against the Western Xia. The exact cause is uncertain, but many people say that he just fell off from his horse and he got wounded and he died in the battle. So yeah, at least he died in the warrior way. Joan of Arc, she was just a French peasant girl actually, but she claimed to have this divine vision and led the French forces to many key victories in the War of the 100 Years, and inspired at the end the French nationalism and the unity like the game. And at the end she got captured by the English, and she was tried for heresy because she was considered to be a witch, and they burned her at the stake in ruin at the age of 19. And it's crazy that she brought so many victories just by the age of 19. I mean, I just got my I finished my high school at 19. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most influential character probably of the science, of the technology, and the symbol of the Renaissance. He was an artist, he was an inventor, he was a scientist, an engineer, and his masterpieces include the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper in the art, and then he started to create like the helicopters and many things that they were brought to life just many years later. And he died in France, probably from a stroke in 1519. Columbus, an Italian explorer who completed 4 voyages across the Atlantic. That, at that time, it was a really great thing. If you think that there are many people in these ages that they never left their town, he opening the Americans to the European colonization, and his expedition reshaped the history as we know it. He died in Valladolid in Spain from illness, and it was probably an arthritis or a kind of syndrome, and he believed that he reached Asia. He still didn't get all the thing about the America. Marthin Luther, that was a German theologian, who sparked the Protestant Reformation by posting the famous 95 Theses in 1517. Challenging, all the Catholic practices and reshaping the idea of Christianity that, in some cultures, it's now the foundation of the religions. He died in Eisleben, likely of a stroke, of a heart attack, after years of, fighting with this disease. Isaac Newton, an English mathematician and physicist who revolutionized science with his laws of motion and universal gravitation. He also made some contributions to the opticus and to the calculus. I mean, he was one of the greatest scientists that we remember, and he died in London at the age of 84. That was a lot. He lived a long life, and probably for some kidneys problem. Voltaire. It was one of the symbol of the Enlightenment. He was French, he was a writer, a philosopher, and he was known for his wit, his criticism of the rules, of the dogmas, and he was defending the freedom of the speech, and he was probably one of the inspiration to the French Revolution, and he died peacefully in Paris at the age of 83 years, having lived long enough, to see his work celebrated, and this is not something that many other historical characters can boast. George Washington, he was the commander of the Continental Army, leader of the American Revolution that we all know, and the first president of the United States. He was, it's a little controversial character because of course it's a symbol of the newborn America, but at the same time he was a slaver, a colonizer, and so on. In any case, he died in the Mount Vernon, when there is the statue now, from a throat infection. Napoleon Bonaparte, French military leader and emperor who rose during the revolution. I watched a movie about him just a year ago. He conquered much of Europe, introduced, new legal reforms like the Napoleonic Code that probably you heard about, and reshaped, the global politics, even, from his country. He died in the exile in the island of Saint Helena, and probably was stomach cancer. And I mean, in any case, many people suggested that he may have been assassinated because he was exiled. He was an uncomfortable person in the nation. So we will know. Charles Darwin, another great explorer and scientist, he was a British naturalist who developed the theory of evolution that was the basis of the genetics and all the science of now. And he conceived the natural selection that then presented on the book The Origin of the Species. That it was a revolutionary masterpiece. He died for a heart failure, in his home in Kent. Karl Marx, a German philosopher, an economist you would not believe, and a revolutionary socialist. He was the co-author of the Communist Manifesto, and still one of the symbols of the communism itself. His idea, really shaped the memory and what we know about many economics and political culture. He was inspired, many of them, think about Russia and so on. And he died in London from pleurisy and bronchitis, so another disease. Abraham Lincoln. He was the US president who led the country through the Civil War and abolished slavery. That is still present in many other countries, but if it's not a West country, the newspaper just don't care. He remains a symbol of the democracy, of the equality. That's why he's mentioned even now in many different occasions. He got assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in the Ford Theater in Washington, shot in the head. Mahatma Gandhi, another character that was such a great symbol, but over time we found out many things about him. That's why we don't support him anymore. In any case, he was the leader of the India independence movement. He the pioneer of the non-violent resistance that inspired many books, many stories, and a global symbol of the peaceful protest that it may work or not, but you cannot you cannot win the war with more war. And he was assassinated in New Delhi by Nathuram Godse, that was an Hindu nationalist who shot him 3 times at close range. Martin Luther King, the US civil rights leader who advocated for racial equality. He was another non-violent Protestant, we can say. His "I have a dream" quote is one of the most famous speech ever made in the history, and he got assassinated in Memphis by James Earl Ray, that shot him while he was standing in the balcony.